I have a lot of respect for our military, especially the door kickers and the guys that are doing it. I used to probably have a lot of respect for our military. These days, I have a lot of respect for our military, especially the door kickers and the guys that are doing it. I used to probably have a lot more respect for military leadership, but when I see some of the woke crap that has come out of their mouths these days, it's actually hard, right? And I mean, I think that's reflected in the recruitment numbers. You know, it takes a lot of patriotism to sign up for something like the military. And it's hard to do that when you're risking your life potentially if you don't believe in the things that are their stated values. So when you see some of the woke nonsense that's going on in the military, what do you see yourself? Because it's got to be frustrating from someone like yourself, who I know is the staunch America First patriot.
Well, you know, the American military establishment is in the same boat as your political structure, and I would argue your economy. It's afflicted with stage 4 cancer. What I'm saying is that, when your dad took office, he spent 4 years suppressing the cancer, trying to keep it at stage 2, because we were already in trouble. We've been in trouble for many, many decades. That's why President Trump's arrival was a returning faith to tens of millions of Americans that there was, in fact, hope for the country, a belief in the rule of law, a belief in the republic, a belief in our national identity, history, and culture. Unfortunately, since January of 2020, we've jumped from stage 2 to stage 4. We're in a lot of trouble. And for the military to get anything right, you really have to decapitate it, because most of the people at the top are among the least impressive that I certainly remember in all the years that I served. And these people are affected and afflicted not just with the sort of stage 4 political cancer of wokeness. These are people who, frankly, will adopt whatever you want them to get ahead. We have a Washington community and a military full of opportunists. Who don't really believe in much of anything except in whatever gets them promoted, whatever lines their pockets with cash. The whole notion of service has largely vanished from the senior ranks. We see it, as you point out,
at the lowest level, but we're having trouble keeping good people in uniform. They don't want to be there anymore because they're sick of listening to the nonsense, characterizing everybody who ever did anything to build the United States and to protect it as some evildoer that deserves to be erased from the historical record. All of this sickens real professional soldiers, sailors, and airmen and Marines.
So yeah, we're in a lot of trouble. That's why I call it now the political equivalent of state Marines. So yeah, we're in a lot of trouble. Sailors, airmen, Marines. So yeah, we're in a lot of trouble. That's why I call it now the Marines. So yeah, we're in a lot of trouble. That's why I call it now the political equivalent of state Marines. So yeah, we're in a lot of trouble. That's why I call it now the political equivalent of stage
4 cancer.
I mean, that's saying a lot, but yeah, when you see that, when you see...
There is one simple hearing hack that
the more kind of Mississippi hill country blues kind of style, you think of people like
I mean, that's that's saying a lot, but yeah, when you see that, when you see Millie, I'd like to learn about white privilege. Like, no one's even heard of this shit before he even said that, but he said it in front of Congress. Meanwhile, he could maybe learn about like winning a war or something like that, or not having the disastrous Afghan withdrawal, but like that was his concern as that stuff is going on. And when you say stage 4 cancer, yeah, it has to be, because there's again, let's just say I know nothing about Afghanistan or military leadership. I know he's wrong. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. It doesn't take, General Patton to understand that this guy's an imbecile, and yet he's there. He's amassed that kind of power, and I feel like they've backfilled all the leadership positions. You saw that with the mandates where they're, the highest trained people in the military were the ones that were sort of anti-vax. They weren't going to go for it. That's our great fighter pilots, our SEAL team type, and other special operations operators. And they're like, no. And they're like, okay, fine, we'll get rid of you guys. Like, they spent millions training them. It's like, we'll replace you with like a trans checkmark person, and they may not be able to operate or fly a plane, but like we'll be really close, and we can pretend that's important for our military, and that's going to somehow help win a war.
Keep in mind that the vast majority of people who govern your country that sit on Capitol Hill, that are operating in the White House, they have no idea what a real war looks like. For the last 30 years, we've been fighting people without armies, without air forces, without navies. Essentially, large numbers of people running around with AK-47s and bed sheets and planting mines. Our military has suffered as a consequence.
One of the reasons that your dad was very interested in extricating our forces from many of these countries wasn't simply because there was no mission. This was an open-ended opportunity to throw money into a large pit, but there was nothing there to accomplish in the interest of the American people. There was no strategic benefit to us. We weren't accomplishing anything.
He understood that, but he also
understood that had a very negative impact on our military. You get lazy when you can dominate everyone with firepower, when there's no real threat to you and you go to war. There is no war. This becomes a colonial expedition. The problem for us now is that we're looking at Ukraine, and the Russians on the other side of Ukraine, these are not Iraqis. These aren't Afghans. This is a real military establishment. And when you listen to fools like this Admiral Aquilino
from Pacific Command talk about our ability to fight a two-front war, that he's not worried about Russia, and he's got
what he needs to deal with China. This is the kind of insanity that we absolutely do not need. Your sober-minded father would have fired you. That's absolutely outrageous nonsense. The last man to talk about a two-front war being child's play was Adolf Hitler. We don't need people that even remotely think like that in uniform. That's where we are. There's no strategic common sense. There's no interest in the national interest. The whole thing is about who makes money in Washington
and bully whomever we want to overseas. All of these
ugly chickens are coming back to roost right now. The whole world is not with us on this Ukraine business.
Most of the world is very much against us. And everything is at risk.
Our economy is at risk. The reserve status of the dollar is at risk. We're facing terrible times ahead. Things are not going to get better until we remove the principal.
Catasticizing
cancer from Washington, D.C. And I'm not just talking about an election for president. We need to make a clean sweep.
Okay, so say you were given the keys to the Pentagon tomorrow, okay, or under a Trump administration. What are the first moves that you make? Because I think, again, you're right. It's not just Joe Biden or Millie. It's much deeper than that. It's much further entrenched. And I think you're also right that when you said it earlier, that it's probably been on the wrong track for quite some time. But it was Trump and/or Trump derangement syndrome that actually brought out the insanity, right? We saw the disease much more clearly. It was sort of hidden. It was doing its damage. But Trump really brought it out where they stopped pretending that it wasn't real. They were saying the quiet parts out loud. But you're handing these to the Pentagon tomorrow. What do you do?
Today, as we speak, we have 44 four-star generals and admirals on active duty in the United States military for a force of a little less than 1.1 million soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines. Now, at the height of the Second World War in 1943-44, when we had 12.2 million in uniform, we had only 7 four-stars. What's wrong with this picture? Anyone who has spent more than a few weeks in business
and understands how to organize,
businesses effectively to be profitable.
looks at the overhead, and quickly discerns what he's dealing with. We have this enormous bloated
Overhead. Of course, the general
say to Donald Trump. He was prepared to do something about that. He asked questions. So the first thing you gotta do is get rid of them all. They all have to go. You need to reduce that number to about 10. But all the ones that you've got right now should be retired immediately. Go away.
Then you have to appoint new service secretaries.
You cannot appoint a golf buddy to be your service secretary. You can't pick somebody because they did well in some corporation. You've got to send people in there who know something about the military. And they can't just be corporate executives from the defense industry.
Who know how to spend money on weapons platforms. You gotta have people that are
Really qualified. They can make the hard choices. And you tell them, you got to get all these people have to go. I want all of their resignations. Then you need to convene boards to pick successors.
and you've got to be prepared to go low. This whole thing of, oh, we can't offload General Doofus, he's so experienced. But getting rid of him may be the best way to possibly improve the whole situation. I mean, this thing of he's got... This thing of he's got experience sounds great.
But what you need is energy. You need integrity. You need intelligence. People that study their professions. They're out there. Most of them are captains, majors, and lieutenant colonels. And just as
Marshall in 1939
began immediately removing general officers, in fact, the first year that he was chief of staff, he retired at 54. By the
time the Second World War ended,
every single general officer in the Army had been replaced except one. Now we've got to get going, or we're not going to win anything anywhere in the future. Look at that withdrawal from Afghanistan. Those people are a disaster. McKenzie and CENTCOM, a Marine Force guard responsible for that. Who in the hell was paying attention? Who reviewed the plan? Who received the briefing?
Sullivan? Who got it? This is outrageous. That should never have happened. And they picked the wrong airport for the wrong reasons, and that should never have happened. And who received the briefing? Sullivan? The briefing. The briefing. The briefing. The briefing. Sullivan? Who got it? This is outrageous. That should never happen.
And they picked the wrong airport for the wrong reasons, and we have nice photographs of people hanging. In CENTCOM, a Marine Force guard responsible for that. Who in the hell was paying attention? Who reviewed the plan? Who received the briefing? In CENTCOM, a Marine Force guard responsible for that. Who in the hell was paying attention? Who reviewed the plan? Who received the briefing? Sullivan? Who got it? This is outrageous. That should never have happened. And they picked the wrong airport for the wrong reasons, and we have nice photographs of people hanging on the wings, hanging on the wheels, people that have no interest in coming to the United States for any of the right reasons. And we're flooded with people again. We know nothing about them. We haven't vetted them. This is part of the larger problem. So when you talk about open borders, uncontrolled immigration, or what I call weaponized immigration, it's weaponized because it's being used against the American people. Because the government in Washington is literally waging war on the core population. You know, those are the people that say, I'm an American, not something else, and then an American, not I'm an American, not conditional American, but an American. That's the enemy, and that's what they're going after here at home. And when you go overseas and you look at our behavior there, there's no strategy. No one has thought through anything. You know, your dad asked an important question when they tried to ambush into a war with Iran. He essentially said, well, if we do what you're arguing, if we launch these strikes against the Iranians, what happens then? How do things look afterwards? Yeah. Nobody asked the question. Oh, let's go.
We can sell a couple missiles. We'll get a board seat at Raytheon. It's fine. I mean, who cares if we get sucked into another 20-year war and billions of dollars and thousands of Americans maimed, butchered for no real end? You know, some general's got a board seat. He's making high six figures to do nothing other than peddle more missiles. But you only keep that job if you keep that cycle going forever.
And the president said, President Trump I'm talking about now, said just a few weeks ago, said, look, we can handle Russia. We can handle China. We understand those issues. He does. He knows there's no reason to go to war with anybody. He said the real problem for us right now is the open border. And not just the open border in the south, because the northern border is equally open. We just don't pay nearly as much attention to it, and it's also a highway for drugs and criminality into the United States. There's no rule of law in our country. Where I grew up in North Philadelphia has from time to time been a combat zone. I'll tell you right now, it's a war zone. There is no rule of law there any longer. Criminality is rampant, and the American people, yes, they're beginning to figure it out, but we're about to go into a serious economic crisis. And once you start talking to people who can't get enough food, who can't afford to buy the food because the prices are so high, you end up the way the Parisian population did in 1789. And we're headed in that direction right now. It takes real leadership by the president, but he's going to need an army of people to fight with him. He's got to be prepared to come into the city, clean it out, and start over. He's got to have foot soldiers in every precinct, in every state. It's the only way to win.
We didn't have that the last time. We've got to have that where there's no chance whatsoever for us.
So you've been pretty outspoken also about sort of the never-ending, war in Ukraine. I feel like, again, first it was just a, $130 billion proxy war. Now, not surprisingly to anyone who's been watching for the last, 7 or 8 years, we have boots on the ground there, and they're doing that without congressional approval and without the approval of the American people. And just another money pit, creating the next class of sort of Ukrainian oligarch. But do we even know because they haven't been clear to me, what would victory be like in Ukraine? I mean, I know they tried sort of sidelining my father with that at CNN town hall. He's like, I'm not thinking about victory one way or the other. I want people to stop dying, and that doesn't seem to be very clear to these people. Where there's a binary victory. I mean, it's like they're playing Call of Duty, not actually dealing with real lives. Trump said we should be doing everything to stop the bloodshed. Do you agree? What do you see happening there? What is the end game if that's not correct?
Well, for the globalists that are running the show, this is the globalist neocon elite, and both on the Hill as well as in the White House, and these elites in Europe, particularly in Paris, Berlin, London, they're all interested in seeing BlackRock take over Ukraine, number one, so that it can be systematically stripped of its resources and turned into a subjugated state that belongs to the larger globalist elites. But they also want to see that happen to Russia, which is why this war was never about Ukraine. It was always about what can be done to destroy Russia. And of course, since the people in charge didn't perform any strategic analysis, they never thought about purpose, method, or end state. They concluded that Russia today is still the Russia of 1992. It's weak, it's prostrate, its economy is ineffective. Remember the McCain statement? Oh, Russia is Spain with a gas station. All of these arrogant displays of America.
For our military, especially the door kickers and the guy.
Let's start with really the oddball issue over the weekend, or the news from over the weekend, and that's the latest on Yevgeny Prigozhin. He was called into the Kremlin with 35 senior military leaders and had a sort of amicable, we think, conversation for 3 hours with President Putin himself. I guess we still don't know what that march from Rostov-on-Don to Moscow was. Was it a temper tantrum? Was it a vanity project? Was it a coup? Was it a coup gone bad?
Well, obviously it's not a coup, and it's not an uprising. There's nobody involved in it but Prigozhin and some portion of his Wagner group. Beyond that, I'm sure your intelligence experts who have connections can tell you whether or not this was staged for Western consumption or there was something more to it. My own view is that Wagner was a very effective organization that has niche capabilities. And as a result, Putin had no intention of disposing of it and certainly was not going to arrest and execute Prigozhin for treason. So I think whatever it was, it's over. Right now, I'm told that the Wagner group is largely in Luhansk, but will move to the
Russia, where facilities are being built for them.
Prigozhin has been reported to be back in Petersburg. So I think this turned out to be a nothing burger for the West.
But I do think it had an impact on Putin in
insofar as it alerted him to some of the discontent at the top of the Russian military establishment.
The Wagner Group did kill somewhere between 12 and 20 Russian pilots in their helicopters. So who knows what Prigozhin told them? They must have thought they really were waging some sort of a war. This is Russian military killing Russian military in Russia.
Well, as I think we discussed before, I was told that an Air Force general, Russian Air Force general, committed those forces. They were not committed by President Putin. And the outcome was as you describe it. By the way, I sincerely hope that people in the West are paying attention to the vulnerabilities of these helicopters, because we in the Army have invested billions in that capability. And that capability is rapidly becoming a permissive environment-only capability, so we should not invest heavily in that and expect it to perform in a high-intensity conflict environment.
What does it take to take down a helicopter?
Not much. Listen, if you get close enough, you can knock it down with a rock. The problem with helicopters is they're very fragile. And at one...
What does it take to take down a helicopter?
Not much.
What does it take to take down a helicopter?
In a high-intensity conflict environment.
What does it take to take down a helicopter?
Not much. Listen, if you get close enough, you can knock it. Listen, if you get close enough, you can knock it down with a rock. The problem with helicopters is they're very fragile, and at one point in time, they were stealthy.
We're selling websites on Auto.
One point in time, they were stealthy and hard to identify and hard to find. That's no longer the case. And almost any shoulder-fired air defense weapon, any radar-guided gun system will annihilate them long before they get a chance to fire anything that's really lethal. And that's why I think we've seen the Russians use them only behind the lines, behind friendly troops. And here's Wagner, which is largely, but not exclusively, infantry-centric. They obviously had air defense weapons, and they shot them.
Over the weekend, President Erdogan of Turkey more or less betrayed President Putin by calling for and saying he'd be in favor of Ukraine joining NATO. And now, in the past half hour, he has said he will go along with Sweden joining NATO. I mean, these are two profound turnabouts and direct confrontations to his former friend, Vladimir Putin.
Well, let's understand Mr. Erdogan and his view, which President Putin certainly understands. And that is that Mr. Erdogan is first and foremost about Turkish interests. And what is in Turkey's interests usually drives his decision-making. Secondly, and a very close second, by the way, he's concerned with Islamic interests, the extension of Islamic influence, power, and people. And so those two things are uppermost in his mind. If he makes a decision to go along with something like this, then there's a benefit to Turkey and to Islam. I think in the case of Sweden, he was lobbying very hard behind the scenes for guarantees or promises that Turkey would be admitted to the European.
Take your time, baby. Because I got to tell you all about it. You'll get good now. Whole light when a dream into itself. I sure did. Lord have mercy. Whole light when a dream into itself. Said that she loved me. Come to find out she loving someone else. What's your heart? Take your time, baby. Cause I got to tell you all about it. Baby, I know you didn't love me.
De beste deals zijn weer...
Little girl, I know you just was putting on. Whoa, Lord have mercy.
putting on. Whoa, you may not miss me now, darling. You're gonna miss poor lightning when it's gone. Lord have mercy. I got so much good stuff behind me today that I don't hardly know how to shake myself. That's kind of nice. So many nights I've been laying down sleeping. Oh, lightning with a dream into itself. I sure did. Lord have mercy. Oh, lightning with a dream into itself. She used to say that she loved me. I'm gonna find out she loving someone else. Boy, it's your heart. Take your time, baby. Cause I got to tell you all about it. Getting good now. Woo. Baby, I know you didn't love me. Little girl, I know you just was putting on. Was putting on. Whoa, you may not miss me now, darling. You're gonna miss poor lightning when it's gone. Lord have mercy. I got so much good stuff behind me today that I don't hardly know how to shake myself. Kind of nice. I believe long run, I believe I'll go back home. I believe poor lightning gonna go back home. I'm gonna ask my baby. Forgive me, darling, if I done you wrong.